Angela Sylvaine, and I'll be reading from my debut novel, Frostbite, which is a 90s sci-fi horror comedy that takes place in a small town in North Dakota that's gotten hit by a meteor which has unleashed alien worms to infect the hibernating prairie dogs. We're going to join Raylene as she goes out to inspect the meteor landing. A gust of icy wind hit her when she opened the door, but she pressed forward, stepping onto the worn wooden porch. Directly ahead in the field, a billow of white smoke rose into the sky from the impact of the shooting star. Her pulse skipped in anticipation. A door banged open and their neighbor, Calvin, peered out at her from the back door of his trailer, clad in a red flannel and long johns. "What's all that racket?" he called, the long white whisper of his comb-over flapping in the wind. Prickling with irritation at yet another delay, she said, "Something crashed. Going to check it out." "Should I come with ya?" A plump, stuffed squirrel was tucked beneath one arm, its tail extending in an exaggerated curl. She'd dropped off a pie for him on Thanksgiving and discovered his obsession with taxidermy. "I'll be fine," she said. "It's colder than a penguin's pecker out here. Sure you don't need help?" he asked. She couldn't help but snort a laugh at that charming mental picture. "I'm sure. You go on in." She didn't stay long enough for him to protest, descending the porch steps and trudging through their backyard and past the small shed she'd helped her dad build at least a decade ago. They were halfway through December, and the snow was hard, the crunchy kind that wouldn't melt for months. The wind bit at her exposed skin, and she lowered her chin as she crossed the seldom-traveled road that ran behind the trailer park. Her boots sunk into the drifts that blanketed the field. By the time she reached the spot where the shooting star collided with the earth, sweat dotted her face beneath her scarf. A bowl-shaped crater, at least 12 feet in diameter, had been blasted into the ground, revealing the dirt beneath the packed layers of ice and snow. In the center of the crater sat a boulder-sized rock, faint wisps of smoke still rising from its surface. Whoa! Sitting down, she let her feet dangle over the rim of the crater. A faint heat seeped through her jeans. The projectile must have been blazing hot to burrow such a deep hole in the frigid ground. She slid down the slope and approached the rock. The mottled surface reflected the sheen of the full moon, its color seeming to shift between gunmetal silver and deep purple. A hissing sounded from inside the object, and Raylene moved closer, reaching out with one trembling, gloved hand. Tightness filled her chest as she considered the immenseness of the universe, a universe where she was no more than an insignificant blip of life. Not exactly a cheerful thought, but a thrill of excitement filled her at being the first person to witness this celestial object up close, to bask in its enormous power. The hiss from inside the object rose in pitch, like a blazing hot kettle reaching a boil, and she froze, her fingers hovering inches away. Her eyes watered from the bite of the bitter wind, and she blinked away the ice crystals forming on her lashes, gaze fixed on the rock. A thundercrack sounded, and the thing ruptured, splitting into two neat halves. With a yelp, she stumbled backward and fell, landing painfully on the hard ground. The inside of the object looked much like the outside, that same mottled metallic rock. Raylene climbed to her feet, eager to touch the thing, to claim it somehow, though her brain argued that might not be the best idea. She stopped when thick, black liquid welled from the pores inside the rock, filling the air with the scent of burnt motor oil. The stuff moved slowly, not dripping or pooling like a normal liquid, rather creeping along the cleaved surface. "The cold air is freezing the stuff," she told herself, until the rivulets hit the exposed dirt and skittered across the ground in a web-like pattern. Raylene gasped and backed up before the sludge hit her boots, slipping but managing to stay upright. She watched as the gunk stopped and seeped into the frozen soil to disappear. The wheeze of her rapid breathing echoed in her ears as she crept backwards, eyes locked on the fallen star. The scent of burnt oil singed her nose as the last of the black sludge slithered from the rock and sunk into the earth. No evidence of the stuff remained. Beneath her feet, the ground rumbled, and she extended her arms to keep her balance. An aftershock from the impact, she thought. A high-pitched shriek, like that of a wounded animal, swelled from beneath the ground, mixing with the whistle of the bitter wind, and she cringed. Well, shit, she said, trying to convince herself this whole situation was more funny than terrifying. Can't imagine I'm getting my wish now.